Hey guys, Professor Bill, Comic Book University, and the question, The Deaths of Vic Sage, issue number 2 of 4. This is a wicked book, man. I don't fully understand why all of this stuff happened. I am expecting we're going to get more of this later, but for now, at least I really demand that we're going to get more of this later on. Like, what was the purpose of this trip in the past? I don't know, man. Anyway, I'm going to talk about this comic book, question what the purpose of it was, hope that we see it in the future. First, we're going to talk about who made it. So, the question, The Deaths of Vic Sage, Book 2. Jeff Lemire is the writer, Dennis Cohen on pencils, Bill Sienkiewicz on inks, Chris Sotomayor doing the colors, Willie Schubert doing the letters. There's a cover by Cohen, Sienkiewicz, and Sotomayor, and Edward Risso does the variant cover. Okay, so there's this black guy living in the town. All right, they're in the Wild West. Y'all remember that the question he died in the previous book, and in the previous issue, and he woke up in the Wild West, right? So we start off with this guy, Irving Booker. He's a black guy in the Wild West, and he wants to buy an axe. It's only 20 cents, right? And he's got the money. The guy's like, I'm not going to sell you this axe. He's like, why not? He's like, dude, just sell me the axe. I got the money. He's like, I don't care if you got all the money in the world. I'm not selling you this axe. So, clear, evident form of racism. Not Vic Sage, Vic Zaz, Charles Victor Zaz, goes walking into the store, and he's like, I need to buy a hammer. Hey, you know what? I think I also need an axe. So he buys that, axe. And then publicly, in the streets, he hands this guy the axe. I'm like, no good is going to come of this. I mean, this was the biggest setup in the world, right? Anyway, they both go their separate ways and whatnot, and suddenly I guess it's that particular axe. Somebody broke into his house or something like that and stole the axe and then murdered somebody. I guess there was like a blood feud. We're just left with nothing. It's like just this guy's life was forfeit so that they could say, oh yeah, this black guy went and killed somebody with this axe. Wow. And the sheriff, of course, believes it. And I'm imagining that it was this man of 1,000 faces guy who does it, this preacher who does it. This was interesting, the way that they're going to do this. I like this. Make no mistake, I enjoyed this comic book. I just don't know what the place of this comic book was. So they go and they're like, we got to hang this guy. We got to hang this Irving Booker guy. And his wife Alma's there. They're threatening to hang her too. And Vic Zaz comes running up. He's like, I'll rescue you. And he shoots down the rope. And it's like the spaghetti westerns, you know what I'm saying? And rescues all of them and gets them, Booker and his wife out of there. His wife Alma gets them out of there. The problem is, they're like, hey, thanks for saving us. And, you saved me twice. There's something inside of you, something wrong, something missing. What's going on? It's like, we have to go back. What do you mean you have to go back? They're going to kill you. It's like, no, man, we bought property in there. They probably burnt that to the ground by now. You realize that you've just been accused of murder, right? Like, these are the stupidest people in the world. Even as they're trying to defend, no, we need to go back because that's our home. Yeah, some people die. Some people wind up dying. All of this is weird. And then they get saved by this Native American girl. She shows up and she just starts putting, I guess, arrows beat bullets every time. Hey, listen, man, I got some native blood in me too. A lot more than Elizabeth Warren does, just saying. But I don't think that I'm just going to run up and, I'm okay with a bow and arrow. I don't think I'm going to take on a bunch of dudes with guns, though. All right, that's just not going to happen. It's not in my repertoire. It's not happening. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, no. So this was a weird one. This was a seriously weird one. But he's got to go through these rituals. He's got to show that he's actually a good guy, even though he doesn't even believe in good anymore. So he doesn't believe that he's a good guy, and he's got some evil in him. I get this. I get this. All of this could just be like some kind of a trance that he's in, whatever. The mystical isn't too far from the realms of who the question is. The trick of it is, I guess, it's a way to try, I believe I said something about this in the previous issue. It's a way of trying to get him back to what he kind of originally was, but in a way that's more likable. Because let's just be realistic. The Question was a very interesting character, but for the most part, most people simply don't agree with those objectionist ideas. It's fact. Most people simply do not agree with that. The whole entire idea of being a superhero completely belies the idea of objectionism. You know, there is no such thing as totally good. There are people and we have flaws, and hopefully most of us choose the side of light. You know what I'm saying? In this particular case, we are actually dealing with something that seems religious. Because mind you, Vic Sage, or Charles Victor Zaz, in this particular case, he's the man with no face, right? And they actually have to take his face. He has to get the prosthetic, whatever, that's put over his face so he could breathe through and whatnot. I need a drink of water. I need water. But sir, mister, you ain't got no face. That was a fun line. Meanwhile, there's another guy over here called the Man of 1,000 Faces. Man, so here's a guy with no face and here's a guy with way too many faces. And what they imply that he actually is really has me super motivated, interested in reading the next issue. Mind you, there are 2 more issues to this, so do not expect a whole lot of answers to be forthcoming in the next book. What I'm actually expecting is that, hopefully at least, there's going to be a ton load of action in the next book. Not to say that this book was lacking in any way of action. No. This was mostly the thriller to get you completely off of your game and not be able to expect what's coming next. So I'm not saying that I'm guaranteeing that such and such is going to happen. Dude, I don't work on this book. But this was a really interesting read. I know everybody's like, dude, but what about the elephant in the room? The elephant in the room is the fact that the art in this book is essentially unsurpassed, man. They show in the back, like, no disrespect to Cohen whatsoever, because I love Cohen's pencils. But Sienkiewicz, to me, is just one of the all-time greats. You can't mess with this guy. And the whole purpose of inks is usually to correct what is done in the layouts, in the basic, works. Like, inks is oftentimes considered the actual finish, for the most part, before the colors get thrown in. And you can't argue with Sotomayor's choice in colors in this. I love the art in this, and all of it is freaking amazing. But I can't help but to just and this is me. I look at the covers of the the first Transformers comic book, and so many of these incredible comic books out there, dude. Bill Sienkiewicz is one of the absolute hands down finest freaking artists ever put on God's green earth. And see, that last page, seeing how, what he does to change the art and to still complement the art, to show the original art, to put his own touch on there. Dude, to me, Sienkiewicz doesn't need to make his signature on anything, man. My God, man. I'm surprised there isn't a cult to this guy, a cult following. Freaking fantastic. I don't want to, bend on this too much, but holy crap, I miss seeing this dude putting his pen to paper. You know what I'm saying? Man, this is freaking amazing. All right. So the next book, I'm expecting there to be a whole lot of action in it, and then we get some answers in issue 4. All the answers, you do realize this is a question book, right? I don't expect us to understand anything, or I don't expect to be given any answers in the final book. What I'm expecting is that we're going to be left with a book where it's literally just him looking out over the cityscape. Actually, even better, he's not really one of those rooftop, brooding over the city guys. He's one of the guys who's actually on the street, the Question. He's one of the guys usually on the street looking out, and then we see up also. All I can see in the future for this is making such an amazing Black Label book that is essentially this doesn't even feel like it's really that much out of continuity, and that's usually what I've seen with the Black Label books. That's why this book is so different to me. Black Label is usually look, listen, this is clearly an Elseworlds book, right? This doesn't exist in the regular mainstream DC universe. It's its own thing, right? So Last Night on Earth, possible future, you know what I'm saying? Harleen, possible origin. Killer Smile, possible, backstory. But this this feels like it's generally just a continuation of everything, and almost as if it's not a pandering, but like a resume saying, hey, can we maybe do a question book? I would be down with that. Instead of like putting all the focus on, let's just make these 3, or in this case 4, I mean, it's Lemire, these 4 issues, because we've got a heck of a story to tell. I'm hoping that this is really just a setup so we can get a regular monthly, even if it's once every 2 months, as long as there's a good, introduction in the beginning, like, hey, recap, this is all the things that happened so far, then I would be okay with that, like 6 times a year, just seeing another question unlimited series. I would love to see something like that again. And realistically, DC would benefit greatly from something like that. I mean, just come on. Oh my God, what's going on? What a great way to show some of the street level characters out there, to go back to Richard Dragon and just hanging out and whatnot. I would love to see something like that, man. Anyway, this book, I think, is the main thing that's really doing that. The story inside was amazing. I don't understand why it's there. I don't understand why this interlude. Maybe to show the journey that this guy's got to do in his little spirit quest. I don't know. But honestly, the story is so freaking good, I honestly don't care. I expect that we're going to figure it out later, or it's going to be something completely left to our interpretation, which, mind you, is a pretty interesting way that Lemire writes also. This really was a good book. And if you're not into Lemire, you're not going to like this book. If you're not into, Cohen and Sienkiewicz and Sotomayor, you're not going to like this book. If you're not into the intricacies of the character of the question himself and all of these crazy stories built around him, you're not going to like this book. You literally have to check all of these and just sit back. Don't expect a story to be explained to you in a book like this. Expect that you're going to have to derive your own interpretation from a book like this, because that's exactly the way that the whole entire book is set up. From the writing, from the writer and the art team, the creators of this book, all the way to the final print where it gets to you. You have to be the guy who interprets everything in this book. And I'm totally okay with that, because the name of the title of the book is The Question, not the answer. So this book is never going to feed you anything. And I'm cool with that, Anyway, literally, that's all I've got for this story, man. I loved this book. It's probably going to be my last review for the week, just because, probably. But, I literally waited until the end for this one because I didn't want to be rushing through this book just to be able to give you, I'm going to be first on this review. No, I can do that with so many other books. I can be first with so many other books because there's not usually too much there to digest, right? I know that with a Lemire book, nah, you can't do that. It's impossible to give, in my opinion, it's impossible to give a great review if you're putting it out immediately. Nope, can't happen. And I don't think I'll ever try. Anyway, guys, this was a freaking fantastic book. Just out there, though. Out there, completely out there, separate from reality, as it were. Meanwhile, for a Black Label book, it seems the most grounded. All right, that's it for me, guys. Professor Bill, Comic Book University. Class dismissed.